Today we have our seventh MeTech meeting, where we look at an update from the tourism ministries from Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. So we also, as things are obviously changing in terms of what content is now relevant, and also we see a lot of webinars that are going on. I will shortly do a survey on the community to see how we look at evolving our meetings. So if right now we obviously have two categories of meetings. One is the country updates, where we split it into 3 countries per call, and then our strategy roundtables. So we want to kind of check if this is still relevant, or if people are looking for other content, if we should change the meeting somehow. We're also looking to have another call with our experienced Mekong collection members to kind of share best practices and have the members connect with each other. One thing I can let everyone know, so I mean August 25th in the afternoon, Bangkok time or ICT, we're looking to do our virtual destination Mekong Summit. So it's basically our virtual conference from 2 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. As you all know, the Mekong Tourism Forum is postponed now from August 25th, 26th to end of February 2021. So we thought we'll have a half-day virtual forum to kind of see what's going on. So we're working on the agenda right now. Any ideas from anyone is always appreciated, and we'll look to announce something officially very soon. So with that, we will maybe start with Cambodia as the first country. I'll ask Kun Ton to see if Cambodia is ready. Ton?
Yes. Sarin is in the meeting already. So, yes.
Okay, so then we'll turn it over to Cambodia to give an update on the COVID travel-19 situation. Also, as you probably have seen also in the community, we have put together our third infograph, which kind of summarizes all the different situations in the member countries. If you haven't seen this, you can find it on Facebook and LinkedIn of the Mekong Tourism pages, and then in the community as well. So again, if this is something obviously that anyone can share, and I think people will get a quick overview in terms of what's going on in the member countries. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sarin to give us an update on Cambodia.
Yes. So thanks, Mr. James. So distinguished all the members of the Mekong Tourism Advisory Groups. So on behalf of Mr. Piero, Director of Tourism Planning Development Department and a member of MeTech, I would like to update you briefly the current tourism status in terms of the COVID-19 outbreak in Cambodia. So currently, there's been 130 infected patients, of which 128 have recovered and 0 deaths, according to official information from the Ministry of Health of Cambodia on the 23rd June 2020. So during these current situations, all the tourism businesses across Cambodia has been operating mostly as usual. So with the safety precautions in the mid-April. So moreover, all tourism-related businesses such as hotels, resorts, restaurants, food courts, and transports by air and waters will have their license fee exemption till the end of 2021. So regarding your your request, I will report to my directors later on. Thank you.
Great.
Hi,
Thank you,
James.
Mr. Sarin.
Yes, I will report to my director later on, right? Yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you. I wanted to see if there's any questions from anybody on the call as it relates to Cambodia.
Yes, yes, I have a question, Jens.
Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to ask about the latest in terms of the opening the borders in Cambodia. I believe there are still some flights flying into the country. What is the situation with regards to opening Cambodia to more flights and opening the borders as well, please?
So, thank you for your question. So, regarding your question related to the borders, so now all the borders are still closed. So, are still closed, not yet to open. But we have already ended the suspension. The suspension of the entry into Cambodia for the foreign national from Iran, Italy, and Germany, France, and the United States of America. So we have some measure to all traveler into Cambodia, both Cambodian and foreign nationals, so are required to have the medical certificate indicating of COVID-19 negative status, issued by a recognized health authority of their requiring or their residing country, not more than 32 hours. Yeah. Is that your point?
Stephen, did that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, are there any other questions as it relates to Cambodia?
I have one more question, please, Jens. With regards to the hotel, I notice a lot of the hotels are still closed in Siem Reap. When do you expect tourism to start moving in the positive direction, especially in places like Siem Reap, which relies so heavily on tourism?
Yes. Yes. Regarding to your question, I think I don't know when, based on the policy maker and based on our strategy. So I don't know when we open, but if it's based on the COVID-19 working group in Ministry of Tourism. So I cannot answer the question regarding when we open the hotel and restaurant in Siem Reap.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions regarding to Cambodia? Okay, if there are no other questions to Cambodia, then we'll move to Laos. Thank you, Mr. Sarin.
Yep. Thanks.
So we have Mr. Somchai from the Ministry of Information, Culture, Tourism of Laos, PDR. Mr. Ton, is there a presentation you're trying to share, or I'm not sure?
No. There is no presentation from Lao PDR. Only Myanmar.
Okay, because I think you share a presentation. You're sharing a screen right now. Maybe take that off.
Oh, actually, I didn't share anything right now.
Okay. Is there anyone who's sharing the screen? Then maybe I don't know who it is. Anyone is sharing? Okay, now, okay. All right, someone is still sharing something. Okay, all right, this seems to be working now. Okay, so we'll move to Laos. Mr. Somshai?
Yes. Good
Yes,
evening, everyone. Could you hear us? Hear me?
yes, we can hear you and see you.
Okay. Good to hear from you and to see you all. So I would like to update the situation, especially in tourism sector in Laos. Pardon?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. In Laos, as today, we have 19 records confirmed of the COVID case in Laos, and also 19 cases have been discharged from the hospital. All the 19 people already go back home. And until now, it's over the 70 days that we not found any case of COVID in Laos. Also, I would like to update for the hotel restaurant as of 27 May. We reopen the type of the tourism activity permitted, such as the hotel, resort, guest house, restaurant, and school of government office. But we still close, especially for bar and karaoke and so on. And for the airline we starting open, especially in domestic flight to the province and to main destination, but not from not from the international other country yet. For the immigration, people can now enter to Laos with a valid entry visa. Those who do not have a visa are able to apply the Lao embassy or consulate or origin country as possible, opening borders. But for the the borders, especially the international border checkpoint, still closed. But they open for goods, for expert, for someone who working in Laos, but they have to follow the COVID-19 steering committees when they going to Laos. Just update the information. If you have question, all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Somshai. Do we have any questions regarding to Laos? Because Stephen has a question. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Somchai, thank you very much. Could you tell us what strategy have you put in place for the airports and for air travel in Laos? Do the airlines operating the domestic flights have to close off one seat in the middle seat? Is there social distancing? Can you tell us what strategy you put in place, please?
Until now, based on the government's regulation, we still close for international flight, but for the domestic, we already open. But in the future, we still how to say that the COVID steering committee, if they can be can be open for other country, but we still not sure the situation yet, because the COVID-19 in neighboring countries still speeded. The outbreak of the COVID still increase, but until now we still look at that.
Yesterday, I interviewed the managing director of Bellman Asia Pacific. His hotel in Luang Prabang, the Bellman Hotel in Luang Prabang, opens on the 1st of July. Domestic tourism, how many potential millions of domestic tourists are there in Laos? And how much is domestic tourism worth normally, please?
For domestic tourists now. During the COVID period from January to March, there are no movements. And after that, especially from the people from Vientiane, they're traveling from Vientiane to Quang Vieng. Now it's full booking, and the hotel, restaurant also discount, especially for Quang Vieng as well for Luang Prabang. As mentioned by Mr. Inti Facebook, he also been there last week. He said that all the hotel, the very especially Luang Prabang View and other hotel, the very 5-star hotel, they also discount for domestic tourists in order to attract more domestic. But the number that we calculate from the province by province from our brand office in each province is about over 2 million approximately.
Hey, Stephen?
Do you know how much domestic tourism in Laos was worth in 2019 in terms of revenue, tourism dollars? Do you have a figure, please, Mr. Somche?
I have figure, but still in my computer. I will share with you on the file later.
Yes,
Maybe I can share with Don, and Don can send it to you.
Yes.
I have the report 2019 international and domestic tourists as well.
Excellent, thank you.
We get a comment from the chat. Someone called Apple. I don't know who that is, but whoever is Apple on the computer could either ask the question or I can read it. It says, I believe the buying power of Lao domestic travel is weak, especially forthright hotels like Belmont, Rosewood. Oh, it's Jeffy. Okay, all right. Okay, great. So I think this is more a comment. As we have Janina on the call as well. Janina, maybe is there anything you could add being in Laos? What are you seeing as it relates to domestic tourism?
Yes, thank you, Jens, for the opportunity to speak. So I would like to present here that I think it's an interesting opportunity this year for Laos. Like, of course, we are all we are all upset about the current situation, but I think we need to also try to see the bright side where it's possible. So currently it is the rainy season that's approaching, and it's also the tourism low season. So it's basically tourism low season for inbound travel, but before COVID, it would be the tourism high season for outbound travel. So most of the expat community living in Laos, or the middle class plus Lao community that love to travel, this would be the time of the year where they would go abroad. They would travel to Europe, they would travel in the region, they would travel to Australia. Now, with the borders closed, I think it's an interesting opportunity this low season for Laos to embrace all these travelers that would normally not necessarily travel much in Laos, but this year they are forced to travel in Laos because the borders are closed. So the expat community, who would normally enjoy this time of year to pay a visit to their families overseas, now need to take holidays in Laos. The Lao community who would enjoy this time to enjoy the summer in Europe, for example, now need to explore their own country and push a little bit further. So I think it's an interesting low season for Laos, and I see some opportunities here, as well as I have a hope that this difficult time might create more resilience for the destinations, as the local travelers will learn more about the beauty of their country, and therefore travel even more in the future within their own country and in the region. And therefore, they still might travel long haul, but a little bit less, and appreciate more what they have next door. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Janina. I think
Jane,
very...
I would like to add.
Yes,
I would
please.
like to add more on the situation. In this morning, we also have the consultation on how we can recovery tourism industry from 2009 from this year 2025 action plan, how we can recovery tourism sector from the crisis now. And we at the for the short term, we would like to promote the domestic tourists, especially now we prepare the report to propose to the government how we can extend the holiday for Lao tourists, especially not only Lao but all embassy living in Laos and other foreigners. They still traveling here. They want to traveling in our country, but we have to propose the government to how to say to have a long holiday for us, and then we can have chance to traveling. And other report we discuss in this morning. We have the action plan, so I can share with Don. So, but still in Lao language. Maybe in the future we can translate into English as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Somchai. Thank you, Janina. We have Anne, who I think is with Lao Buffalo Dairy. I'm not too sure. But maybe, Anne, you have a couple points here in the chat. Maybe you want to comment and talk.
Hi, actually it's Susie from Lao Buffalo Dairy. Hope everyone is well. Yes, we found the same thing, that we were having more domestic visitors from within Laos coming to visit the dairy. Obviously, it's nothing like our normal levels of tourism. And even though this is low season, we would, because it is holidays for the Northern Hemisphere, school holidays, and even shorter school holidays for the Southern Hemisphere, obviously we're missing a lot of tourist revenue this year, but we are seeing some expats and local Lao people from Vientiane and Van Vieng coming to visit. So we have seen that as well. I do have one question. There's been a lot of conversation about travel bubbles and a lot of things I've read initially saying there might be a travel bubble between Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia in July. And then just recently, today and yesterday, I noticed now everyone seems to be saying September. Do the different representatives have any updated information on that?
We will start with Mr. Somchai. Do you have a comment on that? Are there any travel bubble preparations or bilateral relationships being done between Laos and other countries? We know with Thailand is looking to do a few agreements. Other also with, let's say, Vietnam, but then also Japan or Korea and so on. Is Laos looking to do any bilateral relationships or creating travel bubbles?
Thank you, Susie and Jane. For the medium term, as we have planned to have a bilateral for especially for the bubble travel bubbles with Cambodia and Vietnam and also Thailand. We also plan that, but to make sure that I cannot talk more detail on this. Maybe after we have collaboration with especially for neighboring country, and I can come up with the outcome already and approve from the leader. So I will share with you later. But now we already put in a medium term for the bilateral of the travel bubble to in the future too.
Good, thank you. Maybe Mr. Sarin, are there any developments in Cambodia as it relates to travel bubbles or bilateral relationships?
Thank you, but I'm not sure about this. I'm not sure
Okay.
about the travel bubble, so let me talk later. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Are there any other comments or questions regarding Laos? So if no other comments regarding Laos, then we'll move to Myanmar. I know Myanmar, I think, has a short presentation. Are you sharing that, Ton? And then I'd like to welcome Mr. Lamint, who's with the Ministry of Hotels and
Good
Tourism.
afternoon.
It's an update. Mr. Lamint?
Yes, I'm waiting for the presentation, the slide
You have a bit of
from
an echo.
from.
You may have someone else in your office. If they could mute the computer.
Have you seen the presentation I put on the screen already?
No, we cannot see it yet.
No.
Why? Is that happening now?
There we have it. Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Yan and distinguished participants who are joining this webinar, and I'm very happy to give you some updates about coronavirus. So next slide, please. So up to now, we have, as of 24th June 2020, we have 292 confirmed to the cases and 84 still active, and total recovery 204, and the total death was 6 cases. So these cases was recorded 2.5 months ago. So the number is still constant. So we are happy that we don't have any fatalities on the effect of coronavirus. So second slide, please. Next. So the government is putting a lot of efforts to control the coronavirus, and they have already launched the COVID-19 economic relief plan, which was launched on 27 April. So it has estimated timeline and the designated authority in charge, and it covers a range of physical and social measures. So it has 7 goals, 10 strategies, 36 action plans, and 76 actions. Next. So of course, the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism also launched Myanmar COVID-19 tourism relief plan. I think it was said many times. We have 3 strategic directions. So survival, reopening, relaunching. So we are going to details. So we are just preparing, and it has timeline. So starting the survival start from April, June. The reopening will continue June to August, and relaunching August to January. So we are preparing in details the work plan, so that this work plan will be implemented, the private and public synergies with public and private cooperation and coordination. So next. Yes, to save the time, I would like to shorten my presentation. So the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism is implementing plans for the tourism development and security and supporting to ensure security, safety, and convenience of visitors, international visitors who are traveling in Myanmar. Right now, we have already disseminated tourism national guidelines because we said we are going to start with domestic tourism, but we need guidelines, SOP. So the national tourism guidelines includes when the hotels open, what SOP they have to follow, the restaurants as well, and even the pagodas. The domestic tourism in Myanmar, people when they travel for domestic tourism, sure they will go to pagodas. So when the pagodas are not open, how they go for traveling. So that's why last ago concern regarding the tourism and also the stakeholders. So we discuss how we open and we check all the hotels. We are not able to go all the hotels, but 3 or 4 hotels to check how they are preparing to receive the domestic travelers. And even we go to meet a board of trustees to go to pagodas and discuss when they open the pagodas, when they are going to open, how do they open, how do they follow the guidelines of the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Religious and Culture. So this is the Ministry of doing for the convenience of domestic travelers. So I would like to give you information that currently the state and regional governments issued instruction to restrict entering of foreigners. But it is learned that except foreigners who are staying in Insane Township, Yangon, which is designated for stay home, are allowed to travel without any restriction in regions and states, except restricted areas imposed by Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Home Affairs. So it means that the foreigners who are living in Myanmar, they can go everywhere. They can stay at every hotel, but they are not. If they are living in Insane Township, they are not able to go because the Insane Township has been giving stay home restriction. So that's why the travelers who are the foreigners who are in Myanmar, they can travel, they can go. So this is the progress of the country. So I think my information is quite enough. I think. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Lamint. Do we have any comments or questions for Myanmar?
Yes, Jens. Mr. Myint, how many domestic tourists are there in Myanmar, and how much is the domestic tourism market worth in tourism revenue, please?
Yes, frankly speaking, we don't have systematic data collection for domestic tourism, but approximately we have last year, 2019, we have 1 million domestic tourists traveling across the country. Mostly they go to for the pilgrimage tourism, and they go to beaches, they go to the places which they can have different kinds of food, different kinds of sightseeing. So this is but this year, 2020, I'm very reluctant to say that we have only 180 during the COVID-19. So this is we have a huge gap, domestic tourism, comparing with last year. So as all the countries, ASEAN, GMS countries, their tourism relief plan, they mentioned that they will start with domestic tourism. So that's why, as I mentioned earlier, we check the hotels, restaurants, pagodas to be ready to accept the people in Myanmar, to encourage them to travel. When they travel, all will be safe And then after that, the good news will be spread to international community. So we have a good, we can give good information that Myanmar is safe to coming and explore our unique tourist attractions. So I think my question covers your answer. My answer covers your question.
Yes. Do you have any idea of how much tourism revenue those 1 million domestic tourists in 2019 generated for the country, please?
Yes. Sorry?
Do you have any idea how much revenue, tourism revenue, the 1 million domestic tourists generated in 2019?
Revenue, yes, as very difficult. Actually, they spend a lot, you know. Now, Myanmar has higher middle class people. So they travel to beaches, they travel to Yangon, they travel to Mandalay. So even now the culture is changed. Before they go to stay their friend's house, relatives' house, but now people going to stay hotels. So I think I cannot say exactly. So if I say something that it can be wrong, you know, because I don't have any collection on revenue on domestic tourism. Because they go to restaurant, they spend a lot, you know. So very difficult to compile all of the things.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments regarding Myanmar? Maybe any comments from participants that live in Myanmar, maybe Dorji Chie or former Minister U Teong. Any comments in terms of what you're seeing right now as it relates to domestic tourism, and maybe any thoughts that you may have how tourism will develop in Myanmar? Sure. Anyone wants to comment? Excellency, do you have any comments?
Do you hear?
Now I can hear, yes.
Yes, okay. So good afternoon, everybody. When you all are talking about domestic tourism, I don't want to add any extras of Ulamian's, you know, he has already explained to you. But the thing is, it is difficult to collect the specific data, but some of the areas you can get it easy. The thing is, you know, for example, so entrance fees at the pagodas. This is the collection, what we can get it. Then the collection from the hotels like that. Then also some areas like restaurants. We have, you know, associations, all the restaurant associations or hotelier associations like that. Under the MTF, Myanmar Tourism Federation. From there, we can get something. This is my idea that I want to make it happen. The thing is, but what now I'm wondering is, I have only two questions to Ulamian and other member states delegation also, if you can answer like that, because you know, but for my question is mostly dedicating to Ulamian. So in Myanmar, you all heard about tourism strategic roadmap has already been adopted under three main strategies with action, programs, and planned activities. So the question is, do you see any progress in this process, and what are the main constraints for its implementation? So first strategy is already started, you know, it's up to June or something like that. And then second strategy is just in the initial stage. So you can see not only the possible activities which can happen. But also there will be some difficulties as well. That's why if you can answer this question, I'm very happy. Then second question is, we all are in Myanmar. We all are preparing for a new tourism master plan with UNWTO. This is what I heard. So, what will be the main strategy for its development? Just like strategic actions, vision, mission, objectives like that, and in which do we have an idea to add uncontrollable and cases such as C-19 in it. So today we should be careful of this pandemic in the future. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Excellency. I think Ulamint, big question from the former boss.
Thank you, Excellency. I'm very honored to answer your questions. We have already, as I mentioned during my presentation, the Ministry of Tourism has already prepared the tourism relief plan. So the first one is survival, the second one is reopening, the third one is relaunching. So the first one, survival, I think it is already done, I think, because relaxation of tax, waive license fees and lease fees for hotels and tourism, and stimulus package, it's provided by government, and we have already giving trainings for the tourism professionals and staff and people who are not, for example, the trainings for the trishaw, the training for the tuk-tuk drivers, this is already given. And then we are doing the evaluation, the market and position of products and destination. This is still ongoing process, and the ministry has done many meetings with private sectors to get feedbacks and asking them for their cooperation to implement this process. So the second one is reopening. So this is health and safety of the travelers and staff. So most of the action plans must be done by the Ministry of Health and Sports, because we are waiting for the instructions of the Ministry of Health and Sports. So without the guidelines without the permission, we can't do anything. But as you see, we have already disseminated the tourism national guidelines for COVID-19 safe services. This is already disseminated to hotels. Even we put on the website, so people can access this website and see the preparation for the hotels, for the safety of health and safety. So this is we have already doing, but this is, I think, this is ongoing process. So the third one is, but it has many marketing new normal situation. So we have a promotion department and digital marketing section is preparing and preparing in collaboration in cooperation with CBI. So they are supporting the two experts. They are supporting us for designing the new normal tourism promotion, because it will not be the same as before. So this is doing, and another one is that another one is relaunching. So it will be started from August to January. So the time is approaching, but we are preparing more details. So we have 5 branch officers. So they are preparing for the work plan. So how to implement, how to prepare for this relaunching stage. Another important thing is that travel bubble. So this is very popular word, travel bubble. But for the implementation process, very difficult. Even the Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, they are going to do the travel bubble concept, but I think they are still discussing process. I think very difficult because they have to make agreement, because when they travel within these countries, they shouldn't have quarantine, or they have specific guidelines. It should be the same as it should be the same in all countries, so that uh, it's easy to follow up. It's easy to follow. So another one is that we are also uh, to promote our cooperation with our ASEAN countries, especially neighboring countries like Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. Even we are we would like to promote cooperation, even the Italy. So we have, I think, about over 15 MOUs with other countries. Now we are preparing to sign MOUs with the countries which are not signed with Myanmar. So this is a step we have to implement. We are going to implement travel bubble. So after signing the MOU, you can make an agreement. Without the agreement, it's difficult to discuss to implement travel bubble. So I think even though my answer is not very complete, but I try my best to explain the Excellency's question.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
Thank you very much, Excellency.
You did a great job.
Great. Thank you very much, Ulamint. Do we have any other comments from or about Myanmar? I see Dochi Chie. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Jens, it's just a short point. As a tourism consultant, and I'm with the private sector of Myanmar Tourism Federation. It's just a very brief update of what we have been doing. The Ministry of Hotels and Tourism is the lead focal point, and what Ula Mien had explained, we are also working in partnership with the roadmap, and together in the in the roadmap it mentions 3 strategies. Of course, this is the roadmap, and within that strategy, the details, of course, will be supported by the Myanmar Tourism Federation. And mainly, if we are going to work on the domestic tourism, this is the most crucial part, because that's the component that we are going to start with. And for that, we need to work on the domestic campaign, as such, the domestic tourist campaign. And for that, the answer, I hope that will be able to give a boost to the answer of the question that was raised about the revenue of domestic tourists. In fact, if we look at 2019, people are saying a lot that wherever we travel, we see more domestic tourists than international tourists in Myanmar. And that is a very, it's the truth, but we do not have the backup in terms of data. This is something which is lacking, of course, and this is something that we will work on, and it will be part of the Myanmar Tourism Plan, Master Plan, which we'll be working on. And for that, the private sector, of course, is supporting in many ways. That we have the Myanmar Hotelier Association, and in the next meeting that we will have tomorrow, I will raise this point. So whatever kind of information we are able to give, this would be, a quantitative, most probably, and whatever that case may be, it would be supportive to the domestic campaign. So we have the task force formed under the Myanmar Tourism Federation, and within that task force itself, also, I'm also one of the advisors there, and we are working on 5 goals. And one of the goals happens to be The first goal is safety standards and safety guidelines. And the second goal is on the marketing. And the third goal is on communication. And the fourth goal is on, innovative products and innovative tourism services. And the fifth goal is on what we can support to position tourism as a priority sector. That is the lobbying sector, which will be working hand in hand with the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chie. I think some very good points. Any more questions? I see Stephen's hand here. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes, just one more question for Myanmar. We have Naypyidaw, there's Yangon, Mandalay, Bagan. Which are the lesser known areas of Myanmar that the government is trying to promote for domestic tourism?
Actually, Myanmar has many tourist attractions. Most of the destinations are very unique, but it's still unknown to the world, so that's why we are putting a lot of efforts in promoting our tourist destinations. So what your question is that less known tourist destination, right? Less known tourist.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. This is difficult to say, but we have main destination, secondary destination, and then right now I think less known is very difficult to say, but for Myanmar people, I think this is in terms of visitor arrivals, we can say less known, So mostly the northern part, the Kachin state, so the Kakabura Sea and that area is actually it is known, but in terms of visitor arrivals, we can say less known. And then less known. But other destinations comparing with other countries, visitor arrivals still low. But it's difficult to say for me. Less known is the Kachin. People very difficult to travel to that area is maybe you can say less known.
Okay, thank you very much.
So
Did that answer your question,
I think
Stephen?
yes, I give the floor to Dr. Chie. Yes.
Thank you, Ulamin. I think you what you said is all very much in line, with the that has been classified in the previous, I would say previous Myanmar Tourism Master Plan, because we talk about the flagship destinations, which are the core, like Yangon, Mandalay, Bagan, Inle, and then you have the beach, the Ngapali beach. But what I would like to add here, and I think Stephen would like me to tell you that rather than say less known areas, we'll have to look at the demand side. And the demand says that people do not want to go to crowded areas. They want to go to a place where, especially in the new normal situation. And if we look at the new normal situation, people will not like to go to places where, there are more people. And as it is, they're coming out from the stay-home situation. So even the less known area that you can mention in Yangon itself, there are many less known areas in Yangon itself where you can have leisure, where you can have pleasure, and where you can also escape from your home and then also have a safety COVID-friendly destination within Yangon itself. Like, for example, if you go further away from Yangon, like nearby Yangon, Mobi, for example, that itself can be a destination for the local tourists as well as for the foreign expatriates who are here. In Bagan itself, for example, Bagan is known, but within Bagan itself, we do have unknown side of the destination, which people will not need to visit the pilgrimage sites like pagodas and temples. And of course, the beaches. And I agree totally with what Mr. Lamian says. There are many other areas which you can go by car, because nowadays the demand is such that people will just like to escape from wherever you are to a place in your own private vehicle. And that way, you can go to Pa'an side, for example. You can go to Molemyain side. These are the beautiful places. Now, once the domestic travel, especially with the flights are opened up, and nowadays we do have flights to Kachin State. And as you were saying, the snow cap, for example. In GMS countries as well, and also in ASEAN countries, Myanmar is the only place where we have snow cap, and there you have the community, and you can walk for hours, soft tracks, long tracks, and if we are going to promote domestic travel campaign, we have to measure that how many nights they can stay. And based on how many nights, what activities we can bring in. So the less known areas are, as you would say, within the flagship destinations, and also within the areas where the distance is not very far for car travel. But even if you have to go by train, even if you have to go by plane, it should be a destination which has value added support for the local tourists as well as for the expatriates, and from there we can have international, regional, and international tourists. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chie. Well, we went to all the countries, and I'd like to ask Peter Wiesner in just a minute, as probably Bangkok Airways is starting to get ready as well, slowly, to see, how they not just only can, kind of start flying in within Thailand, but also within the region. Before I hand it over to Peter for some comments, and I hope I don't put you on the spot again, which I always do, Peter, and you love it. I think I would to say that I think all the GMS countries are doing a tremendous job in really now trying to get ready to restart tourism. And I think, it's a lot harder to restart tourism than to close tourism. Obviously, there's all the shock that comes with it, and people don't know what to do, and how do I make a living, and how do I deal with all the employees that I need to either lay off or furlough and so on. But now starting tourism again, I think will be a lot more complicated. But first, I want to congratulate all the GMS countries for doing a tremendous job in really trying to put strategies in place and looking at creative ways as well as travel bubbles to build bilateral relationships with countries. As Ulamin explained how complex that can be. You can't just say like, okay, today I'm going to open up from Myanmar to Thailand. There's a lot of different pieces that come into play to make that actually happen. Now, when it comes to policies, we have so many different policies in place, not even globally, but even in this region. I don't know if you've seen what Uzbekistan is doing, and if you haven't, it's just one of these extreme cases where actually I just read about it today, where if you go to Uzbekistan and they're really looking to open it up completely, if you get infected in Uzbekistan with COVID-19, you get $3,000, right? So where let's say Cambodia kind of requires you to put a deposit of $3,000 at the airport to make sure that some of the costs are covered. Uzbekistan goes a whole different way. And I'm not saying one is right or one is wrong, but I'm saying, we're facing some real inconsistency when it comes to policies. And that obviously, as we're saying, trust is the new, gold, and building confidence. That doesn't help, obviously, consumers that are looking to travel from anywhere in the world, if it's from Europe, Australia, or even in Asia to any other place, where really you don't know, how is one country different from the next, So this is obviously an extreme experience. I think we can obviously be very happy and are fortunate that we don't live in countries where, just today, two countries, US and Brazil, for example, there were a record spike recorded when it comes to new COVID-19 infections, right? So I guess when it comes to our region here, we're somewhat fortunate when you look at the numbers that all three countries today presented, where it's either very low numbers and high recovery and very low new infections. So I think, we are in a region where, we can really now fundamentally plan to restart tourism. Yesterday I was together with Dr. Mario Hardy from PATA and Tiffany from the World Travel and Tourism Council at an ADB virtual conference, which was open for all the governments of Southeast Asian nations, ASEAN nations. And again, WTTC has created this travel stamp, which again will drive consistency, because when this stamp is applied to regions, and there is some kind of common denominator in terms of what measurements, a country or destination is doing. Actually, WTTC also presented just last week at our board meeting to our member countries as well, to see how we can leverage that, or maybe even create a Mekong travel stamp with consistent health measurements, which is then powered by WTTC. So all these things that we're trying to do, because in the end, trust and confidence are the main things that we need to build now. There are two things that I always say when I get interviewed by media, and saying, like, there are two things we can't control, but that's what's driving everything. One is government policies, and the second thing is consumer confidence and trust to start traveling again. My last point I want to make quickly is on domestic travel, and Stephen, rightly so, he's looking to compare, how does domestic travel compare to international travel, and it comes to, especially when it comes to revenue. Taking Thailand as an example, in terms of GDP contribution, domestic travel, for Thailand is a very small piece compared to international travel. Saying like, okay, now we're looking to put our baskets in all our eggs into the domestic travel basket, is obviously it's a great way to do, but it's not going to really fill that basket, because international travel, especially for Thailand, is a big share. But again, then we need to see, well, what's actually domestic travel? As some of you know, I'm doing my doctorate degree right now at Hong Kong Polytech, and we looked at the definition of domestic travel, and there are lots of domestic travel definitions out there, from various entities. I mean, many people use the UNWTO definition, which says, and I don't have it in my head right now, but you can look it up, you need to travel X amount of kilometers away from your home, so it actually counts as domestic travel, right? Now, but again, if I go out here in Bangkok and go to a restaurant, or I stay at a hotel across the river, but I'm still in Bangkok, that normally wouldn't count as domestic travel, right? So I think we need to look at the definition of domestic travel again, because this is a new definition. Maybe normally people wouldn't really have a staycation, across the river in Bangkok, or staying even just in a hotel across the street, because they just want to have this hotel experience to get out of their home. Or we heard from Stephen, has interviewed executives at Belmont, where in Yangon staycations is now a big driver of their business. Again, normally that may not even count as domestic tourism. So it's something maybe to take into consideration, as we're not comparing apples to oranges, from, let's say, pre-COVID to now when it comes to domestic tourism data and revenue. So that's just a few thoughts from myself. And with that, maybe I'd like to ask Peter, who is the advisor to the board of Bangkok Airways, maybe to give us some thoughts in what is Bangkok Airways doing. We're always talking about, okay, countries opening borders or domestic tourism starting. What is an airline doing now to get ready? And what is an airline waiting for, to really make sure that they can start flying again?
Yes, you do put me on the spot on a regular basis, but I don't mind at all. First of all, I would like to congratulate the representative of Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar for their informative information. For me, it's always good to hear what's going to happen, what will happen, and it gives us an input as to the situation in each country or the whole region. Airlines, yes, we are the victims, the big victims of this COVID-19. We have 14 planes, and I think 4 of them are flying right now. So it's a huge cost. We are flying 5 times to Koh Samui, where we own and operate the airport. And Samui, of course, is a very popular tourist destination, mainly for Europeans or overseas people. Less for Thais because it's also a little bit on the costly side. The domestic aviation has picked up. Phuket was closed until a few days ago. That's open now as well. But Phuket as such it lives on the international traffic and not on the domestic traffic. So the demand is rather limited. And we have different policies in different provinces. In some provinces, there is still a 14-day quarantine for foreigners. But there are no foreigners coming in, but still they catch the foreigners that arrive in Chiang Rai and Chiang Mai until a few days ago. And you wind up sitting 14 days in a hotel. So that is not exactly encouraging people to travel. On the other hand, all international flights are not allowed. You can leave on a flight. There is a few international carriers from Europe arriving in Bangkok, empty, and they're flying out with passengers that want to leave. But it's still not clear when these people are coming back. Myself, I would like to go to my home country for a few days, but I don't know. I don't want to go 14 days in a quarantine again. I've done it before. So we are very careful how much capacity we are putting on city pair. The name of the game, I think, in all carriers in this region is preserve the cash. And we had a situation where we had to leave the so-called middle seat empty, right? That's also a bit difficult to maintain. But fortunately enough, the government has decided to abolish this so we can use the full capacity. But as Jens said, Thailand lives with the foreign tourists, and without having foreign tourists coming here, our domestic market as such cannot compensate it. So it's a chicken and the egg. What are we going to do? Gradually, if the market picks up on the domestic side, we will increase the frequencies, but so will be the rest, right? We have quite a few competitors with big capacity between the domestic points. And another thing is a lot of people that have lost a job or are on 50% salary, they have other worries to do than going to travel to Samui or to Phuket, believe you me. And a lot of airlines, we included, have salary cuts drastically in order to preserve cash and not kick people out. So if and when the borders are opening, we airlines will be able to put on flights again, and it will encourage people to come in. But what we need is a kind of uniform regulation for travelers, right? If every country has their own rules and regulations as far as COVID, we don't get nowhere, right? People have to be secure and confident that when they travel, they are not harassed unnecessarily. And this is a very difficult task and very difficult to introduce, because many ministers of health or government officials think their way is the best way. But maybe if we coordinate this, at least with ASEAN, we could try something. It would help. The situation, of course, in Europe is slightly different. The EU has, or Schengen has opened their borders and people start traveling. I've seen in other reports that Spain and Italy, the demand has increased, especially from the northern countries, to go to the south, to the sun. And hopefully we could do a similar situation here in the region, right? Vietnam is pushing ahead, is opening up, but it's for the summer season, I think, July, August for the Europeans or for America, it's too late. It's gone. So we have to concentrate on the winter season. And we as Bangkok Airways, we plan to start operating international flights to Cambodia, to Vietnam, to Laos, and to Myanmar, again as of the winter schedule, end of October. I don't think with the present situation it will be feasible to start earlier. Of course, if the borders are opening, yes, we will look into it. We're flexible enough, and I think every airline is, with all the capacity, the pilots we have that don't fly, that should a demand be in the pipeline, we will be able to handle it. But we have to make sure that the rules and regulations are in favor of the traveler. Right now, Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, lets 250 Thais in from overseas countries per day. Right? That's nothing. That's people that come back from Egypt, from Australia, from other places. They are not tourists. They come home because they can't live there anymore, the students or things like that. So what we need basically as a travel industry, for the hotels, for the airlines, for the restaurants, we need tourists. Right? So to get that in is a difficult task. And as Jens said, we need that the traveler has confidence in our products, in our destinations. And hopefully by this winter season, and if there is no second wave coming, we will achieve that. My firm belief.
Thank you, Peter. No, I think it's very much aligned with my comments before. I think building that confidence is really based on good government policies that need to drive it. And as yesterday in the ADB meeting was said, that what's different from SARS and other crises like 9/11 and so on is that this is one that really is driven by the government, and the government policies need to kind of then align for them, the private sector, to act and to build confidence for the travelers. So I think that's what makes it very different than what we've seen in the past. Any other comments? I see Stephen's hand. Okay, Stephen, please go ahead.
Yes, no, thank you, Peter. Nice to see you again. Peter, you said that demand has picked up. What are you looking at in terms of load factor, both midweek, because AirAsia has just launched a midweek promotion, which might suggest they're not doing so well midweek, between the weekends? What is the load factors that you're looking at, please?
Right now, it's difficult to predict something. We have flights that are doing well. Basically, I monitor it every day. First thing in the morning when I get up, I look at the booking situation of the day. There's no point of looking 2 weeks ahead because there's hardly any bookings in it, right? The bookings come 3-4 days before departure. I don't really want to talk about load factors. I would rather say load factors, we can manipulate it. You put 2 more flights into Samui and your load factor goes down, but the choice for the customer, the departure time goes up. And maybe you get a few more, maybe you get less. Or you reduce the frequencies and you have a higher load factor. Now, in aviation, most airlines lease the aircraft. We have to pay it if we use it or not. It's like if you rent a car for a month, but you're going overseas and the car is in the garage the whole week or the whole month, right? You still have to pay for it. You all know that we hedge the fuel. And you have to pay for this fuel if you fly or if you don't fly. If you use it, and we can't take it and store it somewhere, that doesn't work neither. Right? And in the past, quite a few airlines were in difficulties because they hedged too much, too long forward, and when the fuel price goes down, you get caught. Right? So today, basically, you fly, the fuel is paid, and the aircraft rental is done. So you can take a little bit of a risk, but it depends on each airline, right? Of course, you have extra costs, and if you try to just save the costs by not flying, you have to take a certain risk. But for me, the load factor today is get revenue in. I think is the motto of today, right? Get some revenue in. And if you fly, and if you have a 20% load factor, yes, every passenger 1,000 baht more gets something into the till. Traditional calculations of contribution margin 1, 2, 3, and 4, and all this right now don't count. It's like a restaurant. You need to operate. You know you're still not making money, but you have your staff to pay, and you have your additional fixed costs, right? And hopefully you cover them.
Revenue is king, as you say. The other airlines are issuing notes, getting grants from governments, getting cash in to survive. I know this isn't an interview, but what is Bangkok Airways doing to build its liquidity?
Well, we do have a certain amount of cash, right, to tie us over. And the unfortunate situation is, of course, with our investments in our sister companies. They are in the aviation business, catering and ground handling. They're not making money neither. Right, so it's difficult for everybody. For the time being, we manage, but we have to take difficult decisions like salary cuts, benefit cuts, voluntary retirement schemes, and all these things, right, to tie us over. Hopefully, one can avoid to let people go by saying, "Okay, fine, we kick you out." But we are not a state corporation. We are a private company. We are listed, right? We have the shareholders. Yes, like everybody else. I mean, aviation is no different, right? Hotels have the same issues. We are selling seats. They sell beds. Same. And I feel sorry for the hotels in the medium-sized, privately owned hotels, which are certainly well run. But of no fault of theirs, right? They run into a financial problem. But then the restaurants and the the tour buses, the tour operators, we're all in the same boat together. No exception.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Stephen, for all your questions. We're coming almost to the end of today's METAC meeting. I think some very good discussions, and I'd like to thank everyone that contributed, especially our tourism ministries from Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, and everyone that kind of asked good questions and contributed in terms of comments. I'll open it up one more time if there's any other, thoughts or feedback. Also, maybe some ideas of what you want to see in potential future METAC meetings, what we should address. Just wanted to kind of open it up one more time to see if there's any thoughts.
I would like to see some of the other shareholders, for example, like the airports in Cambodia or maybe some of the airlines. I think that would be quite interesting. Like having Peter on is terrific to be able to get some sort of thought. I do feel that maybe some countries like Cambodia, Myanmar could actually make use this opportunity to possibly try and launch long-haul airlines or even expand some of their aviation operations, because some other airlines are reducing their flights and losing slots. But so to be able to speak to some of those, like Cambodia Airways and possibly some airlines in Myanmar, would be interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Good. If we don't have any other thoughts, then I thank everyone for your time today. And again, stay on the online community, and that's where we're looking to kind of continue the conversation. Any ideas, just send us a message, or any other interesting pieces of content that you find, please share it as well in the community so others can learn as well and can take part of that. With that, thank you very much, and I wish everyone a good afternoon, evening, and the rest of the week. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Recording.